Hey guys, Happy New Year, and let's hope that this year, 2024, is not going to be as crazy as some people think it might be. Um, just hope everyone's well. I personally have had a head cold now for 3 weeks, and it's really messing with me. I'm really hoping that I'll be over it soon and I can get back to making, normal basic footage about, pulling stuff apart and finding value in it and things like that. So, and of course the recycling part of it. However, today I'm going to do something completely different. I'm going to do something which is maybe even a little controversial. Now, first off, I must give you a legal disclaimer. This is not all evidence-based fact. Some of the stuff I'm going to talk about is my personal belief where I do not have the evidence to back it up. All right. So this is just what I believe the true story is. So what we're going to talk about today is money. All right. This crazy thing called money, which is in this cost of living crisis with this post-pandemic spending that just went crazy with everything that's been upset. We're now we've had this massive disruption to our fiat currency system. Fiat meaning basically paper money, right? Or forced money. It's controversial even saying fiat nowadays because it's like, oh, is this conspiracy theory? But anyway, what it comes down to is that I'm going to talk to you about what I believe money actually is in my own belief, what I think of it. So first of all, money is something which is, say you got, a dozen eggs and you want to go buy a loaf of bread and you go down to your friend's place and he's got a wheat field and he makes bread and he says, yeah, cool. I definitely want to see you some bread, but I got enough eggs for the moment. I don't, if I have any more, they're going to go off. And have you got anything else? And what they're looking for is something which is like a neutral, what would you call it? A store of value, so he can buy eggs later on. So anyway, if we look at it like that, coins have been around for a long, long time. They have. They've been very, very convenient. And technically speaking, over in America, their constitution, which they love so dearly, what it comes down to is that their government is only allowed to make money if it's actually in gold or silver format, like gold and silver coins. However, they got around that in 1913 with the Federal Reserve releasing the money instead of the federal government. And it's just a way around the Constitution in the sense that, their money it's not gold or silver because it's not actually them making it. They're making it, they're selling it and then buying it back. It's just crazy how it works. But that's a big rabbit hole that people can go down. And if you're interested in the money that basically is the rules the world, which is the American dollar, that's a very interesting journey. And that's somewhere where I went when I first started learning about things many years ago. I did a lot of my own research, and prior to COVID, when it wasn't controversial to do that. Anyway, so I came up with a whole heap of things, and I'm going to part with you some very basic knowledge of what I've accumulated. And again, it's what I believe. It's not actual factual evidence that I have sitting there. I can't point to a document or a reference. Okay, so first off, if you're looking at a token of exchange, something very, very basic nowadays, like if I get like a copper coil, no one's really going to want that except for its value. Whereas if I make what I call a copper twist, or a yabby, as they're sometimes being called, because when they're in the bottom of a bucket, they do look like a bucket of yabbies. Okay, so that there, a yabby or a copper twist, that's actually a form of value in the sense that that's got weight in it, and that is copper. Now, this is varnished or lacquered copper. All right, and which is great because that means it's not going to actually tarnish or get a patina on it. You're not going to lose any of the actual copper in it. It's protected. However, it's slightly less value. So I believe you're getting $10 a kilo last time I checked for pure copper, which was bare bright copper wire, and this you're getting about $8 a kilo for. So it's a slight difference because they've got to actually, to turn that back into pure copper, they've got to get rid of that varnish. And they've also, the weight of the varnish as well comes into the weighing system of when you take that to the scrapyard. Now in Victoria, we can no longer get cash for this. If we go down there, Mr. Andrews in in his in one of the many laws that he passed, which may or may not be a good idea. We can no longer go and get cash at all. It's totally against the law to get cash. We can only get a reverse bank deposit, so a reverse FPOS, a bank deposit directly in your bank account. It's the only way you can actually get coin or cash for that. It's got to go, and that comes with the driver's licenses too. Yet we can go down and we can get a can or a bottle, and we can go and scan that. It's actually quite a nice drink. That it's a it's a ginger beer with a very strong bite to it. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Okay, what it comes down to is that can has a bounty on it. That bounty is 10 cents, and that 10 cents is 2 of these little babies, 2 5-cent pieces. I'll come back to them later. Okay, so in my little workshop, I ran a workshop for some kids who had way too much time and not enough discipline, and they really enjoyed pulling stuff apart for me. And I came up with a payment system, and the payment system was that they come up to me and they give me 5 screws that I'd taken out of something, and I gave them a marble. Right, and they loved it. They would come up with, like a handful of marbles, and they'd trade them in for screws. Now, mind you, I would have to go over that item that I'm pulling apart, because as soon as it became too hard, they just put it aside and grab a new one, and that's fine. They were having fun, and at the end of the day, they would come up to me, and I would open my Lego store. So I'd open up a big box of Lego, and they would trade 1 marble for 1 Lego block. And they absolutely loved it. It kept them so entertained. And years later, they now live in another state, but I contact with them occasionally, and they absolutely love it. They talk about that workshop and how much fun they had and how enjoyable it was and how much they learnt as well, because what they physically learned, what the kinetic learning that they were predominantly in, they learnt so much, and it's actually helped them repair things now that they wouldn't have been able to repair before. It was quite a unique experience. Moving over here to something which is totally my concept. I love it. Now, wheel weights. They used to be made of lead, but these ones are the ones that go on the inside of alloy rims. They actually go in with double-sided tape, and it's a way to not mark the rim. Now, these ones you can get lead, you can get zinc, and you can get steel or iron. Now, these are steel ones. You can see the Fe there. That's the chemical symbol for steel, iron. My apologies. But so it's an iron alloy. Okay, so they're 5 and 10 grams. Now, to me, they are absolutely perfect for tokens of trade. Now, we're talking micro payments. We're talking absolute tiny payments. We're talking less than a cent. But that's cool for me. I think that's a great idea. I'd love to see a community using these things. Marbles and the iron-based ones, they're actually really good for kids, because if they lose them, the marbles are inert, and the steel, you can easily find it again with a metal detector, or you can the iron will eventually just make make the soil a better place for a little bit of iron doesn't hurt the soil. In fact, it's good for it. Anyway, so moving on to more recognizable coins. Okay, so these things. All right, I'll come back to these. Okay, so let's have a look at what in Australia we are still loosely based on where we came from was the British pound sterling. And what the pound sterling, where it derived from, is that you could go and take a pound note and go to the bank at any time that the bank was open and say, here's my pound note. I wish to convert that back into sterling silver, or silver sterling. And you would be given 1 pound of actual silver. So 1 pound is 450 grams. So if we look at that, that's, say, silver on if we average it out over 15, 20 years, you're looking at around about maybe $1 a gram. That's very, very average. And you choose that number because it's easy to deal with. So that's $450 that a pound's worth. But a pound's not actually worth that anymore. Pound's only worth $2. In fact, if we go all the way down to this one might be one that most of you don't recognise. That is actually a half sovereign. Actually, I might turn that around the right way. so you can see it a little bit better. So that's a half sovereign. This was made in Australia, okay, under license from England. So that is a half pound coin. The bank, if I took that to the bank, they would give me exactly $1 for it, one of these, right, because that's what it's worth. It's face value. But it's 22 karat gold. So that coin there has approximately $300 odd worth of gold in it. So it's not a cheap coin. But what happens with coins is that the value of the metal can sometimes be higher than the face value. So that face value there is $1. So back in, we minted these until 1918 in Australia, and I think they were available until about, I'm not sure, 1928 I think was when we actually, well, I'm not 100% sure, 1928 comes to mind, there's something about that. But anyway, the reality of these is that 100 years ago, our $1 coin was worth a hell of a lot more than $300 in today's value. So that's depreciation. What happens with money. And okay, so this is the really controversial bit. What happens, like people say, oh, our taxpayers' money, this, what do we do with our taxpayers' money? But our taxpayers' money, what our government does with it is it destroys it, it destructs it, it gets rid of it, it deletes it from the economy. And people just go, no, that can't be right. And I've done quite a bit of research, and it appears that it is right. What happens is the federal government now, because it's not gold and silver back, the federal government goes, oh, we're going to just make out of thin air. We're going to go, okay, we're going to get, say they get $1 billion. And they go, yeah, cool, let's just spend all that. We'll give some to the states, as in, the states of Australia, because that's where they get most of their money from. The federal government, however, it just makes it up. It just prints it virtually. Most of it is printed virtually. But then it just goes, yep, cool, we'll spend it. And they'll spend it on certain things. But then, to balance the budget, they need to get approximately half of it back. They work out, exactly what they think they'll need to keep the value of Australian dollar pretty much where it is against the value of other countries' currencies. And so what happens there is that they literally tax us to get rid of what they've given us, what they've actually spent. So what they need to do now is they need to actually get they need to get an X amount of it out of the system. Otherwise, the value of our dollar will drop and be worth less because there's too many of them. So it's an interesting concept. It's one that I believe is the closest to the truth I can work out. And therefore, our fiat currency or our money is it's near its end game. It basically, every fiat currency in history has always collapsed. It's a bit of a pyramid scheme or a house of cards, and we're entering a stage where I believe that we're going to see a transition from our money system to a completely digital system, known as the CBDCs or central bank digital currencies. There is a heck of a lot of changes coming, and a lot of them are going to be uncomfortable, very, very uncomfortable. Imagine you have loyalty points at Woolworths or Coles or something like that, and then they say you've got to spend them by a certain time, or they have too much control. It's not you can't go on to the opposite. You can't get Woolworths loyalty points and go spend them somewhere else. It's a captive market. So with the digital currency, it becomes a bit of a captive market. They may end up being able to tell you what you can and can't spend it on. There's all sorts of horror stories on the internet about where all that's going, and the reality of it is we don't know. They've got plans, and the higher up you are, the more of the plan you understand. But the reality is that it doesn't hurt to have actual cash. Now, cash is a very bad investment because cash deflates very quickly. Like, for example, this here, that only buys half the amount of food that it did a little while ago, like 14 months ago. Most of our food is double in price. Our wages haven't doubled. The wages have gone up an average of 3 or 4%. So we look at it and go, yeah, we've definitely got a cost of living crisis, and now we're about to be hit with all these different things. It's going to be a tight squeeze, and more people are going to be looking for alternative ways to make a side hustle, or get some money. And look, this stuff works. This stuff, getting copper and cashing it in, it's a solid way to get a constant stream of money coming in. Also, the can bounty, right? Getting 10 cents per can or bottle, that's a good way to get, $50 a day, or, $200-300 a week if you really hustle at it. But it's a bit restrictive. You need to put a fair bit of time and effort into it, and you need to actually physically do the job. You need to take it down and cash it in. It takes time, and most people don't have that time. And again, you've got to actually have the cans and bottles available, whether you go find them or whether you get, friends and relatives to give them to you. It depends on what you want to do, but you're not going to become a millionaire by the can bounty. All right, so going back to these things, I love my little 5-cent pieces. They've got about 6 cents worth of metal in them, and yeah, they're worth putting aside. I certainly do. I've got a handful of these. When you go back to look at, say, these things, people thought my dad was crazy because he'd go and get 3 pence piece, or 3p, and the 6p. Now, he was looking for rarities and things like that, era coins and rare mintages, and he did very well out of that. But what it came down to was that these things here, the actual value of the metal is well above the face value. All right, so a penny is now worth like 2 cents. So Australian one penny was worth 2 cents, and the 1 cent was a half penny. And so there's worth 2 pennies. That's worth 6 pennies. No, three pence. My apologies, my head is not 100% with it yet. So we're talking around about 6 cents worth of value, and these things are worth about $1 if they're made after World War II and before, where they were 50% silver. And up until the end of World War II, they were sterling silver, so 92.5%. So they're worth about $2. And then their face value was 6 cents. So then we just go over here and we look at these $2 coins. Now, this is what everyone's going crazy about at the moment. People are loving these different colourful $2 coins. But in my opinion, I think they're a bit of a fad. I think they're well overpriced, but this is again my opinion. This is not what's really happening out there, because you can go to eBay and they're certainly asking some decent dollars for some of these things. And yeah, by all means, if you've found something and it's worth something and you want to, if you want to keep it or sell it, that's up to you. That's the beauty of it, is you get to decide. And that's why I like physical currency. You decide. It's in your hand. You have control over it. Okay. Now, the thing is, these colourful things remind me very much of when Telecom, which is turned into Telstra, Telecom got very, very jealous of Australia Post. Australia Post had things called stamps, and people collected stamps back in my when I was younger, when I was a kid. Stamp collecting was huge. It was massive. It was bigger than coin collecting. It was bigger than note collecting. It was absolutely massive. Like, everyone had a stamp collection. It was just crazy. Just how popular it was, and compared to now, and how it's not. I'm not saying it's unpopular. I'm just saying it's not popular. It's like you can now go buy a complete lifetime collection of stamps for about $100 on Facebook Marketplace, where someone gets 10, 15 albums and sells them. They'll give me $100, please. Right, and someone collected stamps all their life only to have their relatives sell their entire collection off for $100. It's just crazy, the difference. I mean, we used to go and buy a bag of stamps from around the world that was still on paper, and we used to actually have to soak them and put them on towels and let them dry. It was just an amazing thing. It was a good hobby, mind you. It wasn't anything horrible about it. But the Australia Post was getting a lot of money for people coming in, and they were making investments by buying stamps and never using them. So the Australia Post wasn't required to pay for the service. Provide the service they were paid for. So Telecom, in a spark of genius, decided to come up with, they came out with phone cards for a while, and I don't have one here, but phone cards were where you had, say, $3 on a phone card. You go to a payphone, which again pretty much doesn't exist, and you go up and you would literally put the phone card in, spend it like a debit card, like I don't know, something you buy from the shops, and then or what MyCard would be now, or what it used to be. So you'd spend the credit on it, and at the end of the phone call, the phone would say, okay, there's now this much left on the phone card. And they were a bit huge, and that was an absolutely manufactured thing. In fact, the International Phone Card Collection Society was 100%, and I got the documentation to prove this, it was absolutely set up by Telecom due to their jealousy of the Australian federal mail system, which is Australia Post, their ability to get a lot of money in and not have to provide the service. So if Telecom thought, hey, if this went back when they were still government owned, they thought, hey, if we can get people collecting phone cards and say that they're worth more money if they're not used, people will buy them and not use them, so we don't have to provide the service of which we've already been paid for. And so phone cards were a thing for a flush in the pan. I know a couple of years are a big thing, and then they never really became a real thing. And of course, the modern version of all this now is NFTs and crypto and all that sort of stuff. And I've got a lot of research I've done with that, and I think Bitcoin's here to stay. It's going to be one of the ones that'll be around. So when you look at the Google, the Apple, the Amazon, it's one of those companies. It's not a company. That's the beauty of Bitcoin, is it's no one owns it, not the actual organization. So I might go into crypto another time and explain a bit more about that if you guys want me to. You can leave a bit of a thing in the comments about what you want to know. I can break it down to very layman's terms about what it is and how to invest safely and what to do and that sort of thing. But the reality of it is Bitcoin's going to be around. Bitcoin's going to be, when we go completely digital, Bitcoin's going to be the equivalent of cash. However, the cash will be digital and 100% trackable by all the governments and the taxation departments. So when the plumber goes, oh yeah, if you're going to pay me government digital, it'll be 1,000, and if you want to pay me Bitcoin, make it 800. That just means it's not going to, it's probably not going to show up straight away. But if the Australian Taxation Office decides to go after that person and audit them, they'll certainly be able to track it all down and work it all out. So, I mean, any criminal that uses Bitcoin for payments is an idiot, because they're basically going to get pinged anyway. So, it's not anonymous. There's very, very few currencies that are anonymous. And in all honesty, I've got mixed feelings about that. About whether it should or shouldn't be. But what I do have very, very strong feelings about is it should be yours. You should be able to actually, what you own, you should own. I don't want to get too off track, but there's this whole ownership thing. Just because you have title and possession doesn't mean you have ownership. In Australia, for example, everything's owned by King Charles. People don't understand that technically, legally, I don't own any of this. King Charles does. So it's that's another one that's up for controversy. But that's technically in law. I'm actually correct on that one. So anyways, with these coins, I am quite happy if we go to some sort of, oh God only knows where we're going and what's going to happen. But if there is a day when, like someone who owns a couple of apple trees and defends them because they're on his little farm or her little farm or their little farm, if they decide that they want coins for that because that's what they want to do, these are some of the coins that you might actually, this is some forms of currency that you might look at. Then you've got other things like, for example, if you've got copper wire that hasn't been stripped, that's still got a currency, but someone will then, turn it into something more tradable, like these things. Or, Bear Bright, I don't have any in hand. I didn't set that one up properly. Okay, so Bear Bright, Bear Bright twists or yabbies. Look, it could be anything. I mean, there's all different types of things, and I have a little bit of a fanciful mind. I like to think of what would happen and that sort of thing. I think outside the box, as you're probably aware by now. But look, if there's anything here I've missed, and I would love for you guys to turn around and say, hey, what about this and what about that? And there's many different ways you can have it. Like, people have used seashells for many, many years as a form of currency. And not in modern times, but there's all different ways to do it. And I'll be interested to hear what anyone's got to interesting to read what anyone's got to say about anything unusual that they use for currency, like whether it be trading cards, for example, or you could use washers. Like, literally, you could use washers as coins in certain circumstances. But anyway, now getting back to what I was focusing on, these are just some of the things that I look at. We'll call them micropayments. So things like marbles and the actual wheel weights. And then the smaller denomination coins where the metal is actually worth more than the face value. They're awesome things to utilize, but there's not that much copper in it. I mean, there's more copper in a $1 coin than a $2 coin. So there may be a time when $1 coins will be worth more than $2 because the face value no longer has any real merit per se. I think as a prophecy or as an observation of human nature, I believe Australian Post will be the last place you'll be allowed to spend coin or cash, and Australia Post will be given the task of basically, through amnesty or whatever you want to call it, they will be somewhere where you're allowed to actually come up with cash and spend it or hand it over and get digital money for it. I think that'll be the last point of call, because the federal government will be, in charge of Australia Post still, and Australia Post will have the job of, collecting what cash is still out there in society. I know that India went through something pretty crazy a while back, where their 50 and 100 rupee notes were all of a sudden overnight, over a weekend where the ATMs were not online, they were told that they were no longer valid. Hey, you got 3 months to change them over. That's crazy. That caused a lot of problems. That caused a lot of stress. I think when we change over, it'll be a lot better planned out. Certainly coming, and they're certainly talking about it enough on TV. When we start seeing more and more news articles on TV and on your feed, on your phone, that's when they'll be preparing us for the changeover. But it's certainly coming in the next couple of years. All right, guys. A little bit of a ramble, but really wanted to post something, and not really well enough to go through and pick out stuff and pull it apart. But this sort of stuff I've been meaning to talk about for a while. I do collect coins. I do collect cryptocurrencies. There's some interesting ones out there. There's a hell of a lot. Most of them are going to go down in value eventually, because there's no real usability for the coin. So it may look good, it may have fancy artwork, it may have cool sounding people running the company, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't do anything, it's probably not going to be worth much. It's like the .com bubble. So that's why most people don't really want to get into crypto, is because 80%, 90% of these cryptos are going to go down in value, not up. So why would you cash in your super to take that gamble? Bitcoin's going to do okay, simply because all the big boys are now taking it on board. But it's going to do okay. It's not going to do unbelievably fantastic, and it's not going to do really bad. It's going to do okay. It's probably, at the moment, it's probably a better investment than gold, because gold, by the way, gold's not actually an investment, it's a store of value. It costs money to turn your asset into gold, and it costs money to turn your gold back into whatever asset you want. So there's a cost at each end, and what happens is it doesn't accrue in value. It doesn't go up in value. It goes up in price, but it doesn't go up in value. That may be a subject for another video another day. But okay, so when you look at, say, these silver coins, okay, a silver coin, for the last, as far as I can tell, with my understanding of what history is, as far as I can tell, a silver coin has bought a meal for the last 2,000 years. It hasn't bought anything much above that, and it hasn't bought anything much below that for 2,000 years. That's like 3 or 4 big societies or big civilizations that have come and gone, and the good old silver coin has still just managed to buy a meal. A big silver coin buys you a good meal, and a small silver coin buys you a basic meal. For 2,000 years. Hasn't changed. Well, it changes, up and down, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things to think of. If you're thinking outside the box, even aluminium, even iron has value, as I believe these things will. The cost of producing that is well above the cost of actual, of the iron, in there. However, what it comes down to, though, is with these things, is that the cost was already incurred by the people who needed it for the wheel. So during the wheel balance, or during the manufacturing and production stage, and then the selling stage of the vehicle brand new, that's where someone paid for the premium to make these a thing. And the premium is the cost of producing the token from raw material into a finished product, which has got some sort of use case. So someone's already paid the premium. For a friend of mine, Polyprofit, mate, I can't wait till you get back and we get back into all this. We've got some good little trading deals going on. But for a while there, I was stripping his yellow rims, and one thing I was getting out of it was these things. Now I've got a whole heap of these. I've got half a bucket full of these. So that made me excited. That really did. So my reward was my little dopamine hit. I get a little dopamine hit of my own chemical factory. My brain gave me a reward for doing something. So, and that's why phones are so addicted, by the way, guys. You're addicted to your own drugs that your own brain isn't actually making, and you're just being manipulated by the electronics and the visuals and the noise to actually do that. And just be aware. I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing. I'm just saying be aware of it. I mean, because it's your own brain you're addicted to. You can put down a phone anytime you want. You can go have an awesome day because it's a beautiful day out there. A little bit muggy, but it is a beautiful day. I intend to go out and enjoy it. I don't need my phone. I don't need to watch anything. I don't need to do anything. But the reality of it is that I am well aware that it's me. It's my chemical product that's getting me addicted to a phone. And yeah, I don't know. Independence, be in control of your own situation. All right. Now I'm going to sign off. Guys, very different video. No apologies for it. I thought, bugger it, I'll stick it out there. You'll either like it or you don't. And you definitely do not have to, watch this one if you're into scrapping only or micro scrapping. I might get more into the micro scrapping very, very shortly because I've got so much stuff here to get through. Some of it I've got literally sitting there waiting for a good video to come up because it's a really good subject for a video. So I need to pull my finger out and get stuff done. I've got a massive project coming up with a complete rebuild of a 1967 Land Rover. That is definitely another story. I've got quite a few other projects. I've got things that I want to make. I've still got, Polyprofit. I do apologize. I still haven't made your tire remover yet, but once I get that, you can do a product review for me if you want. Only kidding. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. All right, guys. Any thoughts on micro transactions and anything that anything you guys use? Like, I actually wouldn't mind to know if there's a couple of scrappers out there who actually trade things. Like it could be as big as alloy heads. I know some people, when they strip an alloy head of all the iron, all the steel, they can use them as aluminium ingots. Not exactly the thing you'd stick in your pocket, but they can use them as trading. But anything else like that, yeah, please let me know. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. It was a different one. And, yeah, let's see if anyone likes this one. Okay, guys. See ya.